Dear learners, welcome to fifth and last session of 6th week of this course, Managing Industry 4.0. In the previous session, we have discussed advanced areas of AI or latest area of AI, generative AI, very briefly, AI agent, agentic AI, and at the last we also discussed few examples of humanoids. One of the key requirement in the industry is making available skills. Our workers in most of the manufacturing plants are trained to work with old technologies. They are not trained to work with latest technologies like predictive analytics or AI or humanoids or cobots. So there is a real skill gap in the industry. So I thought, we should also discuss this very important subject in this course. I will also like to touch upon the two aspects of the manufacturing value chain, that is supply chain and logistic. So we will also have a short discussion on this aspect as well as. I always consider that learning is not an easy thing, especially for a person who is trained to work in certain manner or with certain tools. And a lot of research has been done in this area, and this is a subject called digital dexterity, which I like to introduce here. Companies has to look into how to implement digital dexterity in their organization. Then what is digital dexterity? This is a functional area, how we make use of technology, how we train our staff, how the mindset of the staff and behavior of the staff undergoes some change to adopt the new way of working. And a lot of research has been done in this area, which I like to discuss in a very brief. As you are seeing in the picture, there are two aspects. One side, the consuming of this technology, consuming. Other is that application. Consuming means you are developing in this context, create a chatbot application, automate loan processing. So one side, companies should create the manpower, change their behavior and their attitude in such a way they are ready to work on this front as a development engineer or as a developer. Most of the companies are having legacy. Their staff is still working with the old kind of technology, especially in the IT department, in the shop floor. But how to train them so that they should start working, or they start developing new tools using the new technologies like this. And then there is hesitation across the industry to use the new technology. Even you give them training, you give them hands-on, they will come back and start using their old way of working with the Excel or whatever. So how to change that? Is there any way? Is there any theory around that? Is there any application? So that is what is the subject of dexterity which companies should adopt. So I am bringing here a capability framework which has been advised by some of the leading researchers know, and it was published in Harvard Business Review a few years back. They mentioned the two parts, the ambition and ability. Unless we have ambition, it is very difficult to adopt the new way of working. So first of all, the workers should have ambition to work digitally, and then building digital business, ambition to build digital business. So workers should be clear that we should, the digital business is our career, is our future. So how to inculcate, how to seed this idea in their mind, that is what is required before we give them the training, or we spend money in the training. So that is what this study says, that we should first work at the ambition level. Then once the ambition is clear, that the mindset has been made, then we should start working on the ability area. We train them, and so that they can apply the new technologies in their work, as a developer or as a user. So these are the two aspects, which is more or less connected with the behavior science, where the companies has to apply, or they have to have a strategy around these ideas, creating the ambition across their workforce, and then gradually bringing them on the new platform. Because it's not easy to change the manpower always. Of course, some of the manpower will go, some of the manpower has to retire when they are not at all able to cope up with the new technology. But you cannot, in the old companies, you cannot remove because they have a domain knowledge. The biggest challenge is the domain knowledge. The domain knowledge cannot be implanted, or you cannot be just, you hire a new person and you will have as good as domain knowledge as the old worker is not possible. And domain knowledge is very important, especially in the field of manufacturing. So this is another slide which I have included here. What all is again framework. Then if you want to develop the digital dexterity, what all you should take, what kind of, which all areas we have to work, digital identity and well-being. So digital learning and development, these are the steps. Some of these steps are in the domain of HR function or learning and development department function. I am just sharing the study of McKinsey, which was published some time back, and as per this study, and some other studies have also come, and it's still coming. They say there is a shift, skill shift, automation, and the future of the workforce is changing gradually. And you can glance through this study, or this infograph which I have created here, which I have borrowed from the McKinsey study. And this is what slide I have created out of the key discussion point which are available in this study. If you can see here that from percentage in hours works from year 2016 to year 2030. If you see that number of hours we used to work, there is you can see there is a downfall here. Higher cognitive knowledge is required. Social and emotional knowledge is 24% out of 60. And basic cognitive knowledge, which earlier we had like arithmetic, all those are going down. The demand for technology skills will increase by 55%. Demand for social and emotional skills, including leadership and managing others, will rise to 24%, which has been shown over here. And demand for some of the higher cognitive skills, such as creativity, will grow moderately 3%. So there is a complete shift in terms of the skills if we want to be successful in the workforce. And quite a few number of global lighthouses has developed very innovative ideas how to develop the workforce on the new platform, that we should also take a note of that. This is another the ideas which I have taken from the study published 2024 by World Economic Forum, the manufacturing frontline workers insight and how to introduce new technology. They say that there are three phenomena. So there are three stages before we introduce the new technology, during the introduction of the new technology, and after introduction of the new technology, how to sustain that. So I will like to read some of the steps which has been recommended by this study before the introduction. Before we introduce a new technology, like we want to introduce AI, or we want to introduce the cobot in the manufacturing shop floor area. So what we should do that? What we should do that before that? Communicate the benefit and explain why. Clearly communicate the benefit and explain why. Don't impose the technology. You have to make all workers agree to work on those technology. Explain the decision making process. Explain the decision making process. Make the bigger picture clear end users of the technology. Bigger picture. That what will be the bigger picture? Once we start using technology, our own growth as well as company growth will be on the higher side. Help workers to explore and become confident with the new technologies. So you should not leave them, the workers, alone. No. You should try to help them. No. You should do the hand holding with them. No. Like that, these are the steps required at the management side. No. Then during the introduction of the technology, what steps are required to be taken? Make timeline clearly on. We should have a timeline that within the next 3 months we will be adopting a new technology. You should be geared up with the new technology in all respect. Think contingency. In case there is a failure, what is the contingency for that? Develop the role of super user. This is very important area, that in every function there should be super user who knows everything. You should know most of the things, so that there is any problem, there is a local person available to help other workers. So that is also one of the important strategy which we have to adopt when we want to implement new technology in department or in company or in the factory. Then after introduction, how to sustain that also is a very important aspect. It should not happen that after you lose the control, you lose the focus, then workers come back to the old way of working. So we should acknowledge their success, carry on, see. So these are some of the things which companies has to take a note of that. Maybe 1 or 2 has to be implemented for adoption become sustainable. This is another 10-point agenda which I thought I'll share. It was published in one of the article in the strategy business website. So to the paucity of time, I'm not going into detail, but it's very interesting that and some of the points already I have discussed in the previous explanation, that focus on a few concrete business outcome. We should have a focus on limited number. Not everything you should do in one go. We have to work with the emotions. Design compelling experience. All these areas are little technical areas, but I thought for sake of completeness I should show this picture, and so that you want to go in little more deep of the subject. Probably you may have to train yourself, or you have to prepare your manpower, or you have to prepare your study on these areas. Now we are coming on the digital supply chain. This is a comprehensive slide which I have taken from one of the study done by A.T. Carney few years back, because supply chain has not changed. Supply chain, only how we operate on the supply chain is changing now. How we are using the supply chain is changing now. What technologies are being implemented in the supply chain, those are changing. The supply chain, the main function is similar, same. So what is all supply chain comprised of? Digital planning, digital supply, digital manufacturing, and digital logistics. So here in this slide, the component of supply chain has been shown. And why we are showing this slide over here, that when the question of technology comes, it has to be applicable to all these components. It has to be all components. If you want to build a digital supply chain, we have to digitize all the processes in each of these areas, and then we have to link them so that one after another, that we are going to show in the next slides, 2 slides. So networking, capital reduction, improved delivery performance come under the digital planning, how you use technology over here. Fast response time and speed and supply chain adoption come under digital supply chain. Digital manufacturing we already discussed. Digital manufacturing is another way of talking about smart manufacturing, I will say. We have already discussed a lot. And digital logistics, we are going to discuss about that with the help of the DHL case study. So this slide again gave a glimpse of that digital supply chain. Capgemini Research Institute has included this slide in one of their study. These are the enabling technologies for a supply chain, and this is a value chain of this digital supply chain, research and development, planning, procurement. So it means that in each of these value chain elements, we have to make use of the technology to improve and to transform, to integrate, whatever you like to do. That is what. So this is a very important framework which I have developed for that is the 4 strategic steps to build a scalable digital supply chain. The supply chain should be agile. It should be scalable. It should not happen whatever you have done now. You cannot, later on the work increases and you have to change the supply chain, your platform, or you have to change the software, whatever. So the 4-step strategy is that first strategize and plan. Digital supply chain must be a CEO-led or top leadership-led a business strategy, not an IT pro strategy. So that is one important aspect. We have to make a data-driven organization, that we have discussed already. Why data is so important? Because supply chain is nothing but taking action based on the what is the data insight. What is the data insight? The insight is hidden in the data. So unless you have monetized the data for every process, every event of the supply chain, it become a misnomer, I will say, that you have a digital supply chain. It may work in the pieces, but it will not work in the continuous, in a automatic manner. The way we see the supply chain of DHL and FedEx, all these kind of organizations. Some of the examples I have included over here. Build ecosystem support means you should have a partnership support. You should not work alone. You should have technical support. So you should have ecosystem. Develop the ecosystem and foster collaboration across the function. So supply chain should not be the work of a supply chain department. It should be the responsibility. It should be the shared responsibility of all units in the company. That is what is the foster collaboration across the function. So these are the 4 steps which will make the plan of digital supply chain successful in a company or in the enterprise. So here in this picture, I am bringing another subject of intelligent supply chain. We have discussed traditional supply chain and what we have discussed digital supply chain, and what is the intelligent supply chain. When we have intelligence in supply chain, when the supply chain start taking own decision, real-time insight we start getting, that is called the intelligent supply chain. And this being achieved with the help of IoT, AI, and some other latest technologies like generative AI or agentic AI. So that we will discuss in a subsequent slide. So you can see this slide, the intelligent supply chain, which I have taken from a joint study done by Microsoft and IGNOU. IGNOU is a consultant, a reputed consultant in our country. So Microsoft and IGNOU have done a joint study, and they came out that to develop the intelligent supply chain, this is the value chain of the supply chain, sourcing, manufacturing, warehousing, retail. One of the value chain, not in every supply chain this kind of value chain is there. So this should be supported by this kind of latest form of the functions, smart sustainable farming, supplier management. In case of manufacturing, we should have real-time inventory visibility, demand forecasting. All these things are possible unless we apply the technologies like AI, predictive analytics or prescriptive analytics. So to make the manufacturing intelligent, as we have discussed at length in our previous sessions, we have to employ these technologies to make the manufacturing intelligent. Similarly, in case of warehousing, so if you like to make the warehousing intelligent, you should have a real-time inventory visibility, you should have demand forecasting, you should have warehouse robots. So these once you have employ this kind of technologies or this kind of latest function, then it becomes the you can call that we have an intelligent warehouse. And in the bottom you will find some of the technologies which has been shown over here. These are on the these has been taken on the live examples, from the live examples which you can find in this study, that who are the companies who are using like this these technologies to make warehouse management as a smart or This is I will say a glimpse of intelligent supply chain. So intelligent supply chain is a subject little different from digital supply chain that you should first of all understand, and then those who are interested to explore further studies, there are a lot of material available on intelligent supply chain. All these companies, like all these organizations like World Economic Forum and McKinsey, they all are recommending that companies should build now intelligent supply chain. In support of the intelligent supply chain, I am bringing a very comprehensive case study of DHL. We all are aware of the DHL, and we most of the companies who wants to have a guaranteed delivery in time, they make use of either DHL or FedEx globally. So these are the companies who has studied well. In fact, the entire industry learn from these kind of companies, how they implement, because for them this is a business strategy. So digital supply chain, this is their network, which is being shown. They have 50 countries operation. They have 1,300 warehouses. You can find details on this link. They have so many millions square feet, area, storage area, and they have 188,000 supply chain experts, working behind the scene. So these are the building block of the DHL supply chain, e-commerce one side, service logistics other side, lead logistic providers, packaging, real estate solutions, transport and warehousing. So it means that DHL is working in all these areas, trying to build this function as a technology functions, I will say, not only what they are doing. Like in case of e-commerce, one of the important aspect, as we know, in case of e-commerce is the return. When you return something, you should get back your money or whatever. So how you fulfill that? You have purchased the article on Amazon, and now Amazon you are returning. So our logistics supply chain has to take care of that return. It should reach to that sending agency, and they should credit the money in your account, whatever has been committed by the Amazon, 1 day, 2 day, or one week, whatever. So this is something which is possible only when we are using the technology behind the scene. Sometimes I give the example of Amazon, that when you purchase a item and it says that this item will arrive on so and so date. So they don't tell about the time, but they normally give the date. And we have seen in case of 90% cases, or more than 90% cases, we get that article or that product which we have ordered on that date or sometime before that. So this is possible only with the help of a very intelligent software which is working, which is using the machine learning algorithms and deep learning algorithms. So that is what we call it intelligent supply chain, intelligent logistic, we can call it here in this case. So how you build a digital supply chain? These are the three elements which has been discussed in the case study of DHL, data driven decision making foundations. See, I believe in always sharing what is facts, rather than something we try to guess. No, we should try. And a lot of these companies, DHL kind of companies, provide a lot of information on their website as such. So they have three areas on which they work very closely. One is the data driven decision making foundation. They have established very strong foundation which is based on data-driven decisions. So what is that? Data collection, algorithm analysis, actionable insight. So this is one area on which the DHL is working very, very closely, and they have a perfection, they have a maturity in this area. Then digital transformation engine, innovation, productization. You will see in the subsequent slides some explanation in all these three fields, and automation and robotics. What is data-driven decision making? It has three functions, as I have said, or the three main elements. One is the data collection. What is data collection? Warehouse and transport management system use multiple digital inputs to generate real-time operational data. So they have this capability they have built up in their system, that warehouse and transport management system. Transport is very important because which lorry will take, whether this parcel will go by the flight, or they go by the train, or they go by the land parcel. So all this transport management system data has to be collected. And they use latest technologies like robots, sensors, like that. Terminal management system, TMS, warehouse management system, like that. Very latest warehouse management system. When algorithm plays a very important role. And using these algorithms, they are able to develop the insights. Like when you book when you purchase an article or purchase a product, from Amazon, and Amazon inform you that it will be arriving on so and so date, that is a data insight. With the help of data insight, where that item has to come, which kind of route it will take, and then is there any lag of few hours or 1 or 2 days, calculating all those things, then Amazon this algorithm decide that when these packets or these articles can be delivered to this customer. So that is data-driven decision making. I am sure that you must have understood this aspect. Digital transformation engine, this is also they have developed. And then automatic robots. This is a very important slide. I will say interesting slide. I will say that you can see on the right hand side the kind of equipment this we discussed in the robotics. Robots, they have in most of the in all their warehouses, not in the most of the warehouses, robots take the control of receiving the articles and putting them in the respective areas or except zone and or racks, and also picking up while case of delivery, they picking up from that cell or that bin, and then they will deliver and they will put on the supply chain conveyor belt. This is what is the function of the robot. No manual intervention is being done in case of this kind of companies, DHL or Amazon, whatever. If you go visit their warehouses, you will find this thing is in the operation. Even wrapping is being done by the robots, not the manual wrapping. Wearable devices, hand-free smart devices improving warehouse efficiency. So most of the workers who are working, they have the wearable devices. With the help of wearable devices, they will come to know on their device itself. They can monitor what is all they are supposed to do, how their shop floor is working, whether there any delay. Or there is any breakdown in the machinery. Everything they are visible wherever they are sitting, where they are working. They will come to know the actual situation on real time basis. So this give a glimpse of that. What is the development in the supply chain area. I will say this is one of the most advanced field, the digital supply chain, which has come up in recent year thanks to technologies like AI, predictive analytics, data analytics, and the robots, now humanoids. I have also included 3 of the case studies. Very important to watch, how the Walmart is using, digital supply chain, intelligent supply chain, how Zara is using. Zara case study is also very popular. You can get this, full case study of Zara, how Zara is using, In fact, they have done a lot of innovations. Zara has done a lot of innovation in terms of, using the supply chain. Built a fast fashion supply chain enabling rapid response to consumer demand. So it's a very competitive field in which Zara is there, the fashion. So they have the experimental platform and they learn from their customers basically what they will like to have, what kind of clothes, what kind of merchandise they like to have. And then they accordingly they decide to manufacture, to get done those things. So this is again very interesting case study of Zara. I will invite you to go through this. You can find on the net this case study, or use generative AI tool to share the link of this case study. Amazon is also well known, which we already discussed 1 or 2 times in our course. I have taken a snapshot of one of the Amazon case study. You will find multiple case studies of Amazon. So the question is that what are the key advantages to the structure of the Amazon supply chain? So these are reduced cost through produce sourcing and efficient operation, sell logistic services to third-party sellers. So these are some of the 5-6 areas which Amazon has achieved with the help of their supply chain system, which right now they are operating. This is a highly matured, digitally enabled, or a highly intelligent supply chain which we have discussed. And these are the kind of profits numbers you can see over here. How the Amazon is working. This seems to be a little old data, but now you can find this information will be on the similar pace. So this is another slide which I have borrowed from Gartner, which gave us some of the key companies development or how they are using digital supply chain or latest technologies. So you can go through them. All are equally important. I like to ask you that you go through Unilever, Procter & Gamble, and Apple. Amazon already we have discussed now. This I am just sharing you the link of a very important advanced World Economic Forum center. World Economic Forum has made quite a few number of centers. You can go on the website, you can register there, and this is a free access, and you will come to know what all the world companies, global companies are doing through World Economic Forum. So thank you very much. I think you would have this comprehensive presentation which I try to put in last 30 minutes, that how the new technologies or AI is helping enterprises first of all in the supply chain area, and then also we discussed in this 30-minute session, some of the key case strategies for, upskilling our workers, so that smart manufacturing dreams can be realized, can be achieved, by the companies. Thank you very much.